indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please also stand for a moment of silence for Howard M. Brink, who retired after serving as head custodian for the Beacon City School District for many years. Thank you. Roll call, Kelly.
Ms. Betterford?
Here.
Ms. Flynn?
Delayed.
Mr. Galloway?
Here.
Ms. Johnson?
Excused.
Mr. Singh?
Here.
Mr. White?
Here.
Mr. Wolf?
Here.
Ms. Stadler?
Here.
Ms. Hewer?
Here. Thank you. Matt, fire exits.
Exits are in the back of the LGI.
Thank you. We're going to start with open to the public. I don't see anyone here in the audience. Is there anyone online that would like to make a public statement? Seeing no one else online, we're going to move on to our workshops. So we have two workshops tonight. Our first is from Mrs. Dawn Condello from Pupil Personnel Services.
Mike?
All right, good evening. We're here tonight to share with you our preliminary budget for the 2022-2023 school year. I want to start off tonight with some budgetary considerations, things that we feel that we would like to continue to work on and focus on for the following school year. We continue to provide professional development for the integrated co-taught classrooms. This year at our last professional development day, Jalissa ran another workshop, but that's an ongoing professional development that we feel our ICT teams would benefit from, especially since we have changes of teams, and so that opportunity of continual professional development is needed. We also feel at the elementary level, any kind of professional development we could provide for our special area teachers, especially working with students with IEPs and different strategies and supports would also benefit them. We would like to continue purchasing and adding the Sunday reading program for the elementary schools. And I can go into that part later. At the middle school, again, our professional development for ongoing integrated co-taught classrooms. We continue to see a need for a special education Spanish program for the students in 7th and 8th grade. So the transition to the high school and fulfilling the secondary language is fulfilled, and providing the students with additional support. For the past couple of years, we've been working with the Archiduchess to provide ongoing work-related opportunities for students in our academic daily living skills classroom. We have one at the middle school and the high school. Prior to the pandemic, we were going to add one day of their support for the students at the middle school at the 8th grade level, but we could not do that because of the pandemic. So we'd like to reintroduce that and look at an introductory to the world of work one day at the middle school. And then at the high school, we're going to continue to work with our cohort of students who are in that 18 to 21 years of old age range, which we have 6 or 7 students in that cohort. We've been working with BOCES this past year to expand their CTI program, and actually they've piloted Beacon for this program, where the students are attending 5 days a week in their morning session. They have rotating between a variety of different courses. We've been able to get them uniforms, and we have one of our teaching assistants going with them. It's been very successful, and BOCES would like us to continue that program. 4 days a week, we would still continue our school to work opportunities with the Archiduchess. There's a need to add one additional special education program over at the high school. And so there's an English 11 ICT class that we need to fulfill. Right now, to make the proportionality of our integrated co-taught classroom to a 60-40 split, we do need to add another section to ensure a balance. We need to add a section of geometry, inclusion, non-regents, a conceptual earth science, and a resource room. So that's the need for the high school, and we do continue to need to provide materials for our one student who is visually impaired. In our department, in the PPS department, looking at a 0.5 clerical position, working with Committee on Preschool Special Education. And I've been looking at and discussing with Central Office Administration about the realignment of our sub-CSE chair people, our Committee on Special Education chair people. We need to make this a yearly posted position, evaluation of each year if applicable, and the realignment of our chairpersons. Yeah.
A question, so the professional development, you're saying that you want to continue to do that all throughout the year. How often do you do it now?
Right now because of non-COVID time, this year we've done it once with the integrated co-taught. Jalissa has provided in the years past before COVID, more of an in-depth program, professional development throughout the year with the teams that have been there. So we want to build that back up again.
Okay, and do you wait until there's a superintendent's day, or do you kind of do it throughout the course of the?
A couple years ago, prior to the pandemic, we did it throughout the course of the year, and we had the teams working together. But this year, we needed to wait until the professional development day.
Oh, okay.
You're welcome. So I've been working with the assistant superintendent across the hall for me, and we're looking at expanding our specialized reading program, and we're proposing having one elementary teacher in each of the 4 schools, have that Orton Gillingham trained reading, multisensory reading. Even though we still do the Sunday reading system, which is a multi-sensory Orton Gillingham based program, we also are seeing a need to have teachers trained specifically if we need to access them. Also, the CPI training is a Crisis Prevention Institute. So what we've noticed this year is an increase in all students who are having difficulties coming back to school. We added an additional social worker who just recently started at the high school. We're looking at possibly a 1-year additional social worker at the elementary, which you'll see on another slide, just working on social emotional learning, but also building the capacity of our school psychologist. It's a pretty hefty fee for our psychologists to go, but for them to be fully trained, they will be certified in the CPI training. And in the CPI training, there's at least 10 de-escalation strategies and tips that they would be working with the students and also transferring those skills and strategies into the classroom. I'd like to open up an additional elementary classroom, a 161. We have students who would benefit from the program to support management, executive functioning, and emotional dysregulation. If not, then I will have to do program searches for each one of these students, and we feel like we can manage them in our home schools, but in a smaller classroom setting. It will not be an additional FTE for a special ed teacher. We're able to make that happen in-house. ESY means our extended school year program that we are obligated to do to meet the requirements of the student's individualized education plans. So we're going to continue to do that for the summer, but I'd like to also include this additional class for the 161 and invite the students who are going to be in that cohort to the summer program. We've been also talking about a group of students who are transitioning from preschool to CSE for kindergarten. There's 8 students, and we'd like to offer them a summer program as well to help them with that transition into kindergarten. Currently, we have students who have IEPs that indicate they need the additional support of a board-certified behavior analyst. And we had the fortunate opportunity to do a COSER with Duchess Bosse's, excuse me, and we shared that person with Arlington. Unfortunately, she was a great addition to our district, but she did get another position in a school district as a school counselor. One of our school psychologists, Dawn Asuma, just finished her BCBA certification, and she has her license. So either we can consider utilizing her role and providing a stipend for the cases that we have that require the additional support of a BCBA. We do still have a contract with Anderson Consulting, and it's only on a student-by-student basis, so I haven't had the need to utilize them this year because of our contract with DC Bosse's. Duchess Bosse's is still looking to fulfill that position, and I feel like it's going to take some time for them to do that.
So when somebody gets that certification, who mentors them to get more proficient in that?
That's a great question. So ironically, the BCBA that we had from Bosse's was able to, it worked out. That normally doesn't work out that way, but that worked out really well. So she was able to take some cases and work with a certified BCBA. But she went through the whole protocol. So in a couple slides prior, we talked about the continuation of the Sunday reading system. Julissa has been working with the teachers who have been implementing this program with fidelity and providing continued internal training for any new staff members that enter the school year. We're looking at additional testing kits so that every one of our elementary special ed teachers have the kits. So we're looking at for kit 1, 7 kits, and kit 2, 2 kits. And then we're estimating around 20 hours with 2 presenters within our own district to continue that professional development for the next school year. Right now, we only have 3.5 occupational therapists for the district. And what we do know and what we have seen since we've come back, but even prior to, is that students at the elementary level require additional support from an occupational therapist. And even afterwards, it's not just the students with special needs, it's all students. And so what we found is, and what we've been observing when the students have come back for services, our occupational therapist, Mike, I just totally hit my buttons here, are oversubscribed, so they cannot provide any RTI support at the building level or kindergarten support for students who are coming in with some difficulties. So there are needs of a level of classroom instruction and participation. Increased staff time is requested for RTI with no decrease in time required for interventions and mandated services. So when our occupational therapists are being asked to consult, do a screening, they're being pulled out of their mandated services. Our occupational therapists are also highly trained in the zones of regulation curriculum, which is a trauma-informed self-assessment to one's level of arousal. So if you've been in some of our elementary schools, you'll see signs, are you in the red zone, the yellow zone, or the green zone? And that's really been the huge support from our occupational therapists, which we're tying in with our school social workers. So we're using that common language in practice. A lot of the buildings are having sensory rooms to help all kids when they're feeling dysregulated to be able to go into a safe space. That requires a lot of time, and that also requires our occupational therapists to work with teaching assistants or aides so that we can utilize those rooms safely and appropriately. Mike, how do I go back?
It's the back arrow, no?
Do I? I got a little excited. Oh, you're great, thank you. Yep, thanks. Glad you're sitting by me. And then the social emotional learning. So this year we were able to add another social worker at the high school because of the needs. We're looking at a 1-year staff member to help with additional social emotional learning support at the elementary level. Again, we're finding to address all kids, not just kids with special needs, but all kids coming in. I feel like next year, through my conversations with the staff, Jalissa and myself, the kids, this year was a challenging year for kids to come back. I think next year is also going to be just as challenging. And to have that additional support just to work through some of the trauma-informed situations that kids all experienced during the pandemic is going to be essential. So we continue to have students who are parentally placed. Those are parents who have chosen to go to a public school setting, and if the students do have an individualized education plan, we are still responsible for providing that level of support of related services, which could be speech, OT or counseling, and then resource room.
Do you mean that they were placed in a private, the parentally placed in a private school? Yeah.
Yes, we're still responsible. Or if we have a student, so the district of residence, let's say, is Newburgh, but we're the district of location, we are responsible for educating the student from Newburgh who's here at one of our schools. Some summer support for McKinney-Vento. So again, one of the other roles is I'm the McKinney-Vento liaison, and that's for our homeless students. And so every summer we have to go through and verify all of the students to make sure that they still fall under the qualifications and criteria of McKinney-Vento. So we do that in a couple days. That also helps our transportation department and our food service department and our registrar. We continue to have a contract with Therapeutic Horizons for our physical therapist. And now we've increased it by another 0.3 because of the demands of one physical therapist for the whole department. Something for the department to continue to think about and consider in the future is maybe creating that position. But out of the two, right now I would go with an additional occupational therapist. We're continuing to have that discussion with central office about building a pathway to support full integration K through 12, where we're having more of our students being able to participate in all academic, variety of different academic subjects, as well as special area subjects. Again, in my previous slide, we talked about the need to continue that summer school program, the 6 weeks that we have been approved by state ed. In the summer, we still hold summer Committee on Special Education meetings for school age and preschool. And then we need to consider restructuring our 504 process. Currently, the 504s live in the world of special education. Been working with the building principal about how does that become more of a building level process. We have a lot of students that do have medical needs and care plans to get the school nurses involved to make sure that we are providing them with the safety measures and processes and procedures. Right now, our special ed teachers who hold the 504 plans often don't have the students on their rosters, so we'd like to get more of, and it's at a secondary level, which the numbers are a little bit higher. So for the 22-23 school year, we're looking at 23 or 24 sections. We're still through the annual review process, we're just starting, but that's not going to be an increase of sections at the elementary level. We do need to have a teacher that's going to support Hudson Hills, which is one of our parentally placed private schools where we provide resource room. So we do need 2 periods there. And then having that person continue to provide resource room support at JVF. As you can see for our roundabout middle school numbers, everything seems to be the same. We don't need to have any additional sections. We seem to be able to fulfill what we have currently in our staffing needs. And then a previous slide, I did talk to you about that additional teacher for the high school. So currently, we have 483 students that we K through 12 with individualized education plans. We have 35 students in our out-of-district placements. When I talk about out-of-district placements, that encompasses our BOCES, our Dutchess BOCES, our Orange Ulster BOCES, our Putnam Northwestchester BOCES. We have 87 preschool students, We currently have around 17 new referrals coming through for CPSE, so that number may be increasing. We have 10 students that are currently parentally placed in the private school settings with IEPs, and I also have to manage and oversee the homeschool kids, which because of the pandemic, the number did increase, and we're at 85. Yeah.
That 35 for an out of district seems low, or
Yeah.
am I imagining that?
No.
Okay.
We've been doing a good job about bringing kids back to district when they're ready, and so that's what's been happening.
I thought BOCES was overseeing that. Did the homeschool get brought back to PPS?
They are, but I also have to make sure that we track all of the kids that are being homeschooled. But then we send them over to BOCES with the packet and all of the information. We get the quarterly reports that we make sure that we file. So right now at Dutchess BOCES, we have 6 students. We have an additional 4 because of COVID-19. They're receiving that remote instruction. We're anticipating that next year they'll be back in our district. Orange Ulster BOCES, we have 1 student. I have 1 student up at Ulster BOCES, which is, he came and moved. He moved into the district with that IEP, so we're looking at making that a closer to home placement. And right now we have 7 students at Putnam Northwestchester BOCES. Our out-of-district programs, and this is where Anne-Marie said she would jump in and help me. What I did is I gave you the figures for the 21-22 school year, and then our projected numbers for this coming up school year with a 7% increase estimated, because we know that the school year is our annual reviews are just beginning. So we want to leave some latitude. We oftentimes have students that enter the district with individual IEPs that are already placed in some of these out-of-district programs, and so we have to incur those costs as well. And the other out-of-district programs, again, we did the same thing. We increased that number by 7% with any annual reviews. If we have to look for out-of-district programs, we want to make sure that we have that availability. And then the typical tuition maintenance charges and the dormitory authority charges, those go with our students who are residentially placed in programs. And then our contracted services. So our Medicaid information, I wanted to give you, because a couple years back, in 2017 and 2018, I worked with Anne-Marie and we were able to add an account clerk to the department. And I wanted you to see that the addition of this person who's specifically looking at our Medicaid revenue, making sure that we have our progress notes ready, that everything is accountable, that we're getting doctors' scripts. You could see how much of that has benefited the district of being able to get that Medicaid revenue. Can't really consider 21 and 22 because we were in the pandemic, so that number is different than what we would normally. And we will still be receiving more revenue because this was the last figure from March 9th.
So would you say we're probably back up to the level we were before the pandemic?
Correct.
I think I'm kind of interpreting it better than that. If the first quarter is at $250,000, I think that could jump up, no?
Yeah.
It's for the school year now.
Oh,
Yes,
school
for the
year, that's
school
right,
year.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Were we
Oh,
not
sorry.
eligible in 2016, or we just didn't have the staff
We
to?
didn't have the staff to do that.
So we were just not doing that.
We were, but we didn't have the staff to really look in and make sure. And we have one dedicated staff member that's just doing the Medicaid and then working with the business office.
Okay.
So with that additional person, the amount of work that we have to do to ensure that we have accuracy in our data and information, the amount of going back and forth with agencies to make sure we have updated scripts and progress notes, as well as our own staff. Because our own staff who have their licensures and certification, Our speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, and social workers, we're able to reimburse through Medicaid through them as well.
And how did you identify that need? It was just something you knew existed, or?
Being here as long as I have. Yeah. So I thank Anne Marie for listening to my elevator speech for this, because that really helped.
We have an elevator in our building?
We didn't tell you not to speak.
Replace. So Jalissa and I are very proud of a lot of the things that we've been working through in the department. She just finished her articulation meeting workshops, so this is where she's working with staff from 5th grade to 6th grade in the same room, making sure that we're talking about students' needs and programming so that we have all of the information available, so when the students can make the transition, and also from 8th grade to 9th grade. Our functional behavior assessment and behavior intervention plan forms, through the lens of Jamie Betty, who was our behavior specialist, took a look at our forms and made sure that we were still within compliance and made updated changes so that we follow New York State Education Department's requirements for that. And again, the behavior specialist to support the students in the buildings has been a huge help. We also have special education coordinators, one at the elementary, one at the middle school and high school. They help us with the interview preparation. We meet with them on a monthly basis. They make teacher connections and support on an ongoing basis. The Clerical Department have gone through several different secretaries throughout the past couple of years, so we've developed a huge binder on the PPS process for clerical staff, as well as our continued networking with the RIC over in New Paltz. We've also created a handbook to assist teachers and staff on navigating OPWDD. It's the Office of, why am I forgetting the name? Thank you. Services for Parents. We provide a parent network, virtual sessions for parents this school year. Our occupational therapists and school psychologists in the fall did a presentation on movement support, learning for kids in the digital world. Transition to kindergarten, our 2 school psychologists did that for parents. Our speech and language pathologist provided a workshop targeted for parents and then continued that workshop for the professional development day for our pre-K, kindergarten, and 1st grade. And then we have a contract with Anderson Consulting, so they've been putting availability of workshops that parents can utilize. We've also expanded our platform with Frontline IEP Direct, and we are now using the collaborative portal, minimizing the number of copies of paper and mailing, and emailing all of the consents, prior written notices to parents, CSE meetings. Parents are receiving that in a very timely fashion. We're able to get those notices back because we are obligated under Part 200 to have specific timelines met. So we're bypassing a lot of the snail mail and reducing delays in our correspondence. We continue with our monthly meetings to enhance professional dialogue with all of our special ed teachers. The CPSE chairperson has been focusing on identifying specific needs of each child and family, and there has been site visits out to the agencies. They're starting to open their doors more. Some of the visits have been virtual in the beginning of the school year, or observations of students have been virtual, but slowly people are opening up their doors again. We continue for the alignment of special education evaluations to expand our multidisciplinary evaluations. It's not just through the school psychologist, but it's also including the special education teacher doing the academic testing. And we're looking at expanding that Sunday reading program as well as at Orton Gillingham for strategic reading support. This past year, we tried a co-treat model for our students at Forrestal, and what that means is if they receive occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech and language therapy, and counseling, there's a lot of pullouts for the students. So we've been co-treating and writing that on the individualized education plan so that the speech therapist and the occupational therapist can go in for a session working on the same goals on the IEP, as well as addressing different needs. It allows that continuity in the classroom. It brings the teacher in to understand what kinds of strategies and supports the students need to have. And it's been really successful, so we're going to continue that with our small classes. Several years ago, we participated and started the student-led Iep meetings, which our students in fourth grade start becoming more familiar with what their individualized education plans are. And the end goal is by the time they're in high school, they're running their own meetings with support. But what we want to do and what we continue to do is that students understand what an IEP is, what it means to them, what their goals are. They let us know what accommodations and modifications have been working for them and what has not. So we've been receiving great feedback from our students. And our continued collaboration with outside programs to bring students back into district, going out and doing the site visits, having monthly meetings with the other programs to see where the students are. So our focus and our board goals. We know that we've went through a whole paradigm shift with the pandemic. Very proud and excited that during the pandemic, with the support of our superintendent, we were able to have the students in the special classes come to school 4 days a week. And then we were able to bring back, all of the students. The beginning of the school year, we saw a lot of kids not regulated, a lot of students who, through just working from home, losing those basic skills such as core strength, writing skills, being able to sit for a duration of time, following routines, really dysregulated. And so our psychologists, social workers, speech therapists, and occupational therapists have been really pulled and stretched in many directions to support the students this year. And I commend them on all the work that they have done. We will continue to implement this goal for the following school year, and it's to ensure that we're providing the students with a free and appropriate education and maintaining our compliance under Part 200. We continue to pursue continuous improvement in our practices by engaging families, teachers, and students to provide meaningful learning experiences beyond the classroom. And that is bringing in additional outside community resources for parents. And now that we can provide that a little bit more openly, we're going to continue to do that. We understand that students will be entering 2023 with some possible 2022-2023 possible challenges. Professional development over the summer to provide all staff working with students will be necessary to continue to make sure that we're providing the support and services that our students need. So I have a 24-page comprehensive special education plan that will be shared with you from our superintendent. We wanted to present the budget and present these ideas to you first. And this is part of the requirements of the Board of Education needs to receive for all of our students under education law. So the plan will provide you with a description of all of the programs, the definitions. It will give you anecdotal data for the past couple years where we are with students in the district, the classification, programming needs, and a budgetary plan. It will be a 3-year plan, and again, that will be shared with you, and at a later date, I'd be more than happy to talk about that. But I did call it a sustainability framework because we want sustainable practices when we're working with our students and developing programs. So that's forthcoming. Okay.
I have a few questions, if that's okay. Sure. So the zones of regulation that you had mentioned in different buildings, is that something that's coming from PPS and being driven by the OTs, or is that different from building to building? Like, does every building have a zone of regulation map and a sensory room?
Most of them are starting. The occupational therapists have been the forefront of getting the zones of regulation. I think some of the building PTOs and PTAs have been supportive of providing some of the materials. We've been working with Anne Marie about budgeting and making sure that we have the appropriate equipment and needs in our sensory rooms. But if you walk around the buildings, the students know if they're in the red zone, the yellow zone, or the green zone. So it's a common language and practice.
Okay, so every building has
The
that set up,
elementary.
and every building is in the process of getting a sensory room, or does
I think they all have them.
If they're not completed, there was money allocated in the federal grant, in the federal stimulus money to get all the schools.
Okay, and who oversees that? Is that PPS or is that building principals?
Both.
Okay. Then, I mean, one question I just had was about the social emotional initiatives. We haven't seen any specifics other than we know responsive classroom has been ongoing. It's something that's mentioned in kind of an ad hoc way by principals, but is there a kind of comprehensive series of strategies that are being implemented to address social emotional issues, or is it left to the building level?
Right now, I know we've been working with SAGI on what does that look like and how do we build that in a systematic profile and platform for the following school year. And I think we'll touch upon that, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm actually in conversations with responsive classroom at BOCES. I'm trying to see what I can get through BOCES as is aidable, to see how we can support it, because we also have zones of regulation going on as well. I get a little concerned when we have too many programs going on and then there's this inconsistency and kids are hearing too many things,
Sure.
like red and then something else, so, and talking with guidance counselors and teachers as well, because there are a lot of programs that are CASEL approved, but not everything is right for Beacon. So we have to find what's right for Beacon, and I'm really looking for something that's culturally responsive, because that's the need in Beacon. So kind of stay tuned. So I did speak with BOCES, and we're working on something, because again, if we can get something through BOCES where
Yeah.
I can have someone coming in consistently, you know, because our teachers don't want a training that's one and done. They want continuous support throughout the year, so that's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
Is there any, I mean, this year's, we're 3/4 of the way through, is there anything that we've noticed that's been effective this year that we've put into practice?
Well, again, I think that with the zones of regulation, again, that's part of an SEL, occupational therapy, it's all encompassing. And having that common language and practice and building that through. We need to do more for our students, we need to provide more, so that's why we're looking into a 1 year for next year at the elementary level.
Okay.
Our staff, all of the related staff, if a student needs additional help, we're pausing to provide them with that help.
Right.
But when we're pausing, we're also pausing mandated services and evaluations. But we're finding that our students need to have that.
Yeah.
Simple things such as when we have now removed the masks. Our kids have not been accustomed to seeing people without masks on, and these are things as adults I don't think we really took into consideration until the situation arises. So if we're looking at you sideways, well, they're bullying me, or they're teasing me, or if they're moving their lips because they have food in their teeth, the kids are reacting to that. So these are like little nuances that we really have to be aware of and cognizant that these are real situations, and we have to bring back more of that opportunity of classroom discussions about nonverbal body language and what does that mean, entail, and how do we manage that, and how do we use our words. So these are little things that I think we didn't even, as we're all trying to survive and work through what we just did in the past 2 years, we're also learning from the students as to where is it that we're seeing the gaps and where do we need that additional support.
And what about 6 through 12? Do we have anything specific that we're doing for social emotional initiatives with the older grades?
We hired another, through the American Rescue Money, we hired another social worker that's been working at the secondary level to offer additional supports to our students. So that's something that we did, was it November?
And she just recently.
I mean, we don't have a defined, like a social emotional curriculum for like the high school. But,
Yeah, I'm not
I
going to
would-
put anybody on the spot.
oh, no, I mean, I was gonna talk about a little bit of my thing,
As a
like,
parent, it's really just this something that like I've been seeing, a lot of these things happening with kids and friends. And so I don't know, I see when I come to the meetings, we talk about social and emotional, but I don't know what we're actually doing on the ground. I would make a plea for some sort of effort around social media and digital citizenship, because I think that's a glaring need that I see over and over and over again, and I have brought it up, but I do feel like for that 6 through K-12 level, there's like kind of a red button flashing on the dashboard. I kind of think we need to think about that.
Our library media specialists, that's something that's part of their curriculum at the elementary level, as well as in the secondary level. In addition, because why not, we're getting new computer science standards. Yay. So part of the computer science standards is really to enhance that digital citizenship. So we've already had stuff like that. However, of course, with the interruptions that we've had the last 2 years, you know, I always tell people we have to keep in mind that our high school, they're not teaching high school students. They're teaching middle school students.
Right.
Our middle school are teaching elementary students, and our elementaries are teaching even younger. So I think a lot of the things that we're seeing are due to a lack of maturity and exposure in the intro. So it's been a lot more difficult. But and the challenge with trying to find something that's K-12 is, of course, is that developmental appropriateness, because the older students don't want to do something that they consider babyish.
Right.
Like we can't do zones of regulation really with a 9th grader.
Right.
You know, so trying to find something that's really appropriate for them. That's why the counselor seemed like more of something that was appropriate for that age level.
Okay.
Our social workers, we have the 2 social workers currently at the high school and the one at the middle school. There has been ongoing professional development provided by our BOCES at 0 cost. And our staff, our related staff, have really taken upon themselves to do webinars and workshops that are applicable to helping the students. So suicide prevention, a lot of different areas. So we receive all of the inquiries about attending all of these different workshops.
Right.
So that they can take the information and then bring back. And when we meet on a monthly basis with the team, for an example, the social work team, will share out what have they learned and some of the strategies. We're constantly sharing information.
Right. And it would be so helpful, I think, to have any connection to, you know, under our communication goal, any strategies or tips that could be sent home to help them parents manage and continue that process at home would be really helpful. I had a question about restructuring the 504, but I don't totally understand what I wrote, so we'll skip it. For Orton Gillingham, is that the idea that we're in the process of establishing having a trained teacher at every building since it's an ongoing budgetary goal? So we're still in that training process?
We're in that discussion process. We have, we've done, excuse me, we did a huge survey for all of our teachers to see where they are with their specialized reading training. We do have some teachers from way back when Mr. Mulhern was here to have the Wilson trains, and they're pretty much at the high school. Since that time, we've had people retire. We have one person who's done some of the Orton Gillingham training, but needs to just finish a little bit more to get that certification.
Yeah, it's a long process, so
It's a
that's why.
huge, long process. It's a big commitment. We want to make sure that we have the commitment of the staff.
Right.
But we're also seeing with the Sunday reading system, which is based upon the Orton Gillingham and the foundations. We started small with a cohort several years back, and we saw a progression with this cohort of students who then aged out of the program because they did so well. So then we started increasing the training in-house. Angeles has been spearheading that with the teachers who have been doing it with fidelity.
So is that Sunday or Orton Gillingham?
Sunday.
Okay.
So there are multiple, you know, for students who require special needs instruction in reading because of a language-based learning disability, we use the skills of the staff we already had trained in Wilson to start that process of benchmarking our students and being able to move them along in their IEPs. When we brought in Sunday, we started that second cohort of kids who were identified and classified by the CSE to start that program. Now that those students are now at the middle school with another trained staff member who's trained in Wilson and Sunday. So and we have students that come in from other districts with Wilson only experience. So we're able to match them up with a teacher who's trained in Wilson to continue multisensory reading instruction at that level. And we also have somebody at the high school who's trained in Wilson, so when those students make it to the high school, we have a continuum if they need that level of support.
But right now, it would just be like great to see how this all maps out, because that goal of having those 4 certifications, it's like that's a long process. So seeing like where we are in that process and
with the Wilson, what I would tell you is, because I was Wilson trained, so once you consider Wilson trained level 1, you'll always consider Wilson trained level 1. But if we've had teachers that haven't used it in a while, we're really looking to BOCES to see if we can get almost like a refresher, because you have your certification in Wilson. But like anything, whatever's not used, it's not, you don't remember it.
Yeah.
So those people who are already Wilson trained are gonna get kind of like a refresher. And just on the gen ed side, our foundations program is a Morton Dillingham program as well, so it's a prevention program that we're doing K2. So we're in the process of actually getting everyone retrained in foundations as well, to make sure that we're all kind of like on the same page. And then they're gonna be getting support next year to make sure the program is implemented with fidelity.
Right, the goal is to ensure that we're catching kids early on in K2, between K2, so that by the time, if there's a referral to special education, because we suspect a disability in that particular area, we've addressed a lot of our strategies at tier 1, at level 1 with core instruction. And then Sunday in Wilson will serve as our specially designed instruction. for
And it would
students
only
with
be from
diabetes.
referral, we're not testing to see any, that if we're seeing a K through 2.
The foundations has an assessment built
And
into
review,
it.
yeah. So one of the things about the foundations program, because it is from Wilson. So
Right.
it's called Baby Wilson. So it's 30 minutes a day, every single day, 5 days a week.
For all students.
For all students. So we're giving that K2, every student is going through the foundations program. So at the end of every unit, and depending upon the unit, some units are 3 weeks, some are 4, 5, 6, there's an end of unit test. What foundation says is that any student that does not pass with an 80 or above must have the unit repeated. And then they have to then get retested again, and that serves as data.
And we've had that here for a long time, yes?
Yes.
But then again, as Saggy was saying,
Turnover.
the turnover of staff, we need to do the retraining so that we have it implemented with fidelity.
Right.
And people change grade levels. There were
Correct.
people that were not initially trained because they were teaching at another grade level. Then when they went down in grade level, they didn't do the 5-hour. It's really important to kind of do that 5-hour overview and then have the consistent training throughout the school year.
Okay.
Do you have it
That's-
coupled
yeah.
with another program for the K2? Is foundations coupled with like a,
It's balanced
FMP?
literacy. So K2 for 30 minutes a day, they do foundations and they do 45 minutes of reader's workshop and 45 minutes of writer's workshop to focus up now.
Cool, okay. That's it, thanks so much.
So you mentioned the Medicaid reimbursements. I think I used to know, but it's students that already have Medicaid, so the private insurance is not a option to bill those.
It is, but we have students that, once they register in the district, we make sure that we get the Medicaid eligibility forms completed, because if they're not Medicaid eligible in the beginning, but they may be later on.
Okay.
So again, it's using our staff who, when they have to have prescriptions for occupational therapy, physical therapy. And so for our staff who have the licensures, we have to have a prescription from the doctors. Our speech pathologists, we don't need to have a script. They write their own script. Because they're Medicaid eligible and they have the licensure, we can tap into that piece for the district.
So it's not worth going through to the private's insurance, or?
It's not really through the private insurance, that's kind of separate. This is more for the aid that we provide,
Okay.
that we get for our staff who have the licenses.
Okay.
That's why we're helping the staff offset some of the licensures, because we benefit from them having the licenses. If we hired staff that didn't have it, we could not get the Medicaid reimbursable funds.
Gotcha. Now, we go through BOCES a lot because it's aidable. Are they services that we need that, maybe aidable through BOCES, but also reimbursable through Medicaid that we're not using yet?
No,
Okay.
we're okay.
I like the comment about like taking some stuff home for the parents. I was kind of thinking something similar in terms of, I think our kids stay here and they get most of their care here. And sometimes it's tough. When they're home, they may have other competing interests that the parents are that take away from our kids. And I kind of was, while I think it may be a little bit outside the scope of PPS, I would be interested to hear something that's community-based. Um, I think that one option with sending stuff home with the parents is one thing. If we know something happens outside of school, um, for example, there was one incident where, I transported a high schooler to Mid Hudson Regional, right? But because of rules, like, I can't really tell the school, right? Parent knows, parent could do so, but I'm wondering if there's any type of ways to get some sort of a process agreements or what have you to kind of approach it from a community point of view that, where the school is alerted that this is someone that may need some care because something happened to that person.
Oftentimes, if our students are hospitalized, we are notified because we have to pay the portion of their education. So then we know that that student's going to need a re-entry back to the district. Oftentimes, it is at the middle school or the high school. We do have a process and a procedure and a form of working with the team on that re-entry, bringing that parent and that student back to talk about what does that look like when you come back to school. What are some of the measures you need? How are you feeling? Where are some of your barriers? How do we work through that?
Okay.
We oftentimes, when they're discharged from hospitals, we do not receive comprehensive discharge plans. So we're working with, making sure that we have that collaboration with the family and the student.
I'm just kind of wondering from the point of view where, you're already collecting the eligibility paperwork, whether or not some parents may be amendable to sharing information from other providers to the school district, maybe getting that pre-approval or something so that the information can flow back and forth. So it's just a suggestion that, I'm obviously, you're more experienced to tell me whether I'm my idea is a little out there, but I was kind of thinking, how can things that happen outside of school be, or something that happens in the school be connect with because a student doesn't stop being a student. I mean, a student,
Exactly.
yeah. So, lastly is the violence in the schools. What are can PPS look at that? Maybe catch it earlier enough where interventions could be done.
That's a building level, including PPS. So
Okay.
it should not be, when we're talking about preventative programs, we're talking about preventative programs for all. And so that needs to be a deeper conversation with all administrators and people who work with the students, clearly guidance counselors, social workers, psychologists. They're at the front line. So to listen to what are some of the soft signs, what are some of the strategies, those are things that we're doing and trying to figure out. But it should not be housed in one room. It should be a global perspective
Okay.
so that we can reach all constituents.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for taking care of our most vulnerable kids.
They're our babies.
Yep.
Dawn, I just wanted to know, what's the status of the homeless student population? Has it changed much in the last year or two?
We're seeing an increase. And part of it is displacement because of COVID. Some of it is displacement because of jobs. So there we have temporary housing. Anytime that we are told that a student is moved or living with somebody, we do a verification to make sure that they're receiving adequate clothing or food and where they're gonna be and what's the status. So confidentially, that all of our social workers, as well as myself, attend all of the McKinney-Vento trainings throughout each month so that we're making sure that we're hitting all of the tenets for unaccompanied youth.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Dawn?
I had just a brief question about, you mentioned student-led IEP meetings. How young do you start those those types of
Fourth
meetings?
grade.
Is it right from the beginning?
Yeah,
Fourth grade.
well, we started having students just understand what a goal is early on, even if it's a personal goal. And then by fourth grade, we're asking the teachers to talk to them about one goal on the IEP. And, how do we measure that? What does that look like? As well as looking at a personal goal and building that capacity. By fourth and fifth grade, we invite the student to the meeting with parent permission towards the last 5 or 10 minutes, just to recap all of the strengths that we've noticed with the student. These are some of your testing accommodations and supports in the classroom. Do these work for you? Oftentimes, the teachers will already have those discussions with the kids. Our teachers do a lot of pre-annual review discussions with the students. And we learn through this whole big process. Some students are saying, you're going to give me extra time. I'm not going to use it, but I could use this. I can go
Okay.
to a testing center. So we're learning a lot. And as they get older and parents are more comfortable with the process as well as the student, they sit in on their meetings a lot longer.
Okay,
It's
Great.
been a great process.
Good.
It's been very rewarding.
that's great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. That's been something that I think it's almost like a lost opportunity for gen ed kids to sort of have this conversation about themselves and their goals and, strengths and things they want to work on. It's been,
We need to build the capacity of our students being able to advocate for themselves.
Yep.
And when they leave high school and they go to college or they go to a trade or they go to a job, if we don't teach them that opportunity to have that platform to reinforce, I need this to be repeated to me because I will understand it, but if I can't hear it more than once, then I may not follow all the steps. Or I need to be in a quiet area if you want me to read this manual so that I can understand. I need to come back to you to ask questions. And so teaching that life skills is embedded in this whole process because we know how it is when we go to college. It's a whole different platform. So how do you start advocating for yourself and building that confidence level to do so? And that's the ultimate goal through this process.
Thank you so much
You're welcome.
for all the hard work you've put into this department.
Yeah,
Really
thank you.
grateful
I'm
to
my
you.
partner in crime.
And your partner in crime.
Thank you very much for recognizing that.
Thanks, Dawn. Next, Matt is going to talk about instructional services.
All right, so tonight is not our final budget presentation. This seems loud. It's not our final budget presentation, but we wanted to provide an update with where we are with instructional staffing moving forward. Saggy and Bill and Anne Marie and I have been working hard on putting this plan together and working with staff as well, and just looking at needs across the district. The last couple of years, for lots of different reasons, in terms of long-term positions, we've been a little bit on the conservative side, and we're excited this year to be moving forward with several initiatives, both long-term and short-term, that we think are really going to help move the district forward. The superintendent, my first superintendent when I was principal, Kevin Kastner, would always say, what we have in our budget, what we do with our budget, shows the values that we believe in as a school district. And so, you heard that loud and clear from Dawn and Jaleesa's presentation. And so tonight we're going to talk about some positions that we would like to add to the budget for next year that will really help students pre-K through 12 in the district. So before we get to that, just want to again sort of go through some past budget successes, especially in regards to staffing that we've had over the past several years. One is we've added additional staffing my first few years here in the district to really dramatically decrease class sizes at the elementary level. We also added first through a grant, then through the budget, fourth grade instrumental band. By the way, if I think I have this correct, at the concert last week, the sixth grade band was the first sixth grade group to perform that started at fourth grade. So there not only was a sixth grade concert band, but there was a sixth grade jazz band, and they were good. That's what I'll say. I was really impressed. And I spoke with the teacher, and he said it's really all due to kids starting in fourth grade. So we're really starting to see that bear fruit already. We also increased PE time for elementary students across the board. We've added various electives to Beacon High School. We've added an additional world language. That was something I heard loud and clear when I first arrived here, that we only had Spanish. Now we have Italian. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth in a moment. We've provided additional mental health support. Our mental health staffing is really some of the best in terms of staff per student. Some of the best staffing in the area, and we're very proud to be adding to that. Part of our work over the last few years has been adding classes at the high school that allow our more advanced students to excel. So we now have 7 AP classes at the high school and 8 DCC classes. And there's the list of those classes. On the AP side, just to be clear, for next year, it would either be art history or studio art, depending on student interest. They're trying to figure that out right now. And then those are the DCC classes. And so, again, we've had a lot of budget successes beyond this, but we've accomplished a lot through the budget process the last 5 years. And the last 2 years, really, we've put so much of our budget and so much of the relief money we've had into getting kids in school safely. And so much of our focus has been on that the last 2 years as well. And so we're really excited to be sharing some of our thoughts and plans for next year. All right, so we're going to start with pre-K. And, there's time for questions at the end, but just throw them out while we're going too. And, the team will be jumping in to help me with stuff that I may not be able to answer. So here we are proposing an additional 1 FTE, so 1 teacher of additional pre-K staff. Our goal, or our plan, is to have 4 full-time pre-K classes, 1 at each elementary school. This year, we piloted 1 full-day pre-K program. It was at Glenham, but it took students on a lottery basis from the entire district. We bused kids from all over, and it was a wild success. And how do we judge that? We judge that by talking with the teacher and the staff who work with the program all year. The parents were thrilled by it. Cassandra Orser is not only the principal of Glenham, but she also is, she runs our pre-K program through the district for a stipend, and she's also been really impressed with how successful it is. So we've actually been working on this one for quite some time. And so I love that we'll have 1 of these full-time classes in each of our elementary school. We think it really will incorporate those students into their school community. They'll be with older siblings if they have them. We just think that part is great. And we also think this is something that parents have really wanted an expansion of for years now. So we would not be decreasing the number of students we serve. Right now we have several either morning or afternoon classes, and the 1 full-time. I think we serve like 74 students through those programs, so it's just about the same number, and we'll be able to keep supporting community-based programs through the UPK funds we receive through the state. So this would really dramatically increase the amount of time students are receiving school-based instruction at the pre-K level. What questions do you have about that? Any right now? You
I
wanna
have
say
one,
before?
the UPK, that's the universal pre-K, right?
Yes.
So that's state funding. What do we know about the future of that? That's not a one-shot, is it, or is it?
We've been receiving it over the last 5 or 6 years.
5 or 6?
So it
That's good.
comes through in our state aid run. There's also additional UPK money that for this year we did not apply for, but it's still available to school districts that have a UPK program. The budget that we received through our state aid, we've never totally utilized it because we haven't had the total number of students.
Right.
So that's why we can utilize more of the grant fund.
But isn't the UPK, one of the steps is that it has to be full day to use it, and it's like 60% of what the cost is? So it takes your foundation aid formula?
It, we have not had a full day program until this year, so it's always been half day. When we contacted them and asked them about the pilot, we didn't have to apply for the additional UPK money that was available because we weren't using our allocation. But it's based on an amount per student. That's how we pay the community-based organizations. So if a student decides to go through them, we have to allocate 10% of the grant to them, but we can utilize more. In fact, that's what we're doing for some of the kids that are going to the community-based program.
But the universal pre-K for the full day, you're gonna utilize those funds, correct?
Yes.
And that goes to 2027, I think, right?
Yeah, so that's even a different pot of money that we haven't even allocated.
Right.
We're gonna look into getting.
Just we had 4 sections of half-day pre-K and the 1 section of full-day pre-K. Is that what we currently
We
have?
had 1 full day and 1 half day at Glenham.
And
And
then,
then the other half was at Forrestal, and then Sergeant had 2 programs, morning and afternoon.
so we had five half days
and a full day.
and a full day, and we're gonna go to 4 full days.
Those classes were not fully subscribed,
So that's how we're staying, that we're meeting the same
yes.
students that we were compared to.
The process for this registration is now open.
Yes, now,
But it will be through a lottery, and the lottery is, it's just a straight up lottery, correct? There's no parameters put on it. We obviously think this is going to be popular, so we're kind of waiting to see how many people register. We typically run about 200, give or take, students per grade level in BCSD. So 72 obviously is not, the 200 4-year-olds that are out there. We have had a pretty sizable number of parents do just different things for pre-K and not do the district, but we know this will probably increase interest. So we're kind of waiting to see what that will look like.
Are we still gonna partner with community-based programs next year?
Yes.
So we're gonna have to allocate some of the UPK
Yep.
funds?
yeah, so 10% of the total grant would go to them, and then if we anticipate that maybe parents aren't interested in the full day, although the interest level's high,
Mm-hmm.
so we can introduce them to the community-based organizations.
Which they may open up, because more kids may take the in-house, so then there will be more availability for that.
So we currently partner with 2. There has been more community-based organizations that have reached out to us, so we're gonna, Cassandra and I are gonna investigate that as well to see if more people are interested.
So if it's based on the lottery system, and there's more than 72, and you pick, say 100 people apply, right? You pick all 100, and then you go 73 on a wait list, 73 to 100 on a wait list.
Yes.
They won't have an option for a half day because we're not gonna offer half day anymore.
Correct.
Okay.
Good question.
The only thing that stinks, it's not based on need, right? It's not based on economically disadvantaged or kids that need it and stuff.
We used to, the program was need-based, that's how it first started here, and it was in Forrestal, but that has gone away, so we can't make it need-based.
Have you utilized the old pre-K money for, on like a need base, like economically
I
disadvantaged? Or?
can't, we tried that,
Okay.
yeah.
I think there's a very small number of districts that are able to kind of, what's the term, grandfather that in from years ago.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we may want to consider is holding some spaces in reserve for people who register a little bit late, who, so it might just help people more in need possibly.
Yeah, I think the other thing that, as I understand it, if there's a sibling, right? Say there's 2 kids, like twins.
Yeah.
They both go into the lottery, so if one could get it and one may not get it.
I don't know if we've thought of that part yet.
Triplets, quadruplets, yeah.
And the extra additional pre-K,
Twins will count as one.
that's right.
Yeah,
No.
that's the hard
That's
part.
the hard
Like,
part, right.
is that these little scenarios could come up, and that's where I think it should be based on some type of need.
It would be
right?
great if it were need-based.
But that's a state thing,
I know.
just to be
No,
clear.
I know it's a state thing.
Right.
That's not Beacon. That's the state thing.
But they're pushing for this to just be not lottery-based. sooner rather than later, right? But there's enough.
If the numbers stay the same now, it would not be lottery-based. Everybody would get their want, and we are getting a lot of people asking, that need on a personal level. Cassandra and I are gonna investigate the additional money, because if for some reason we have an issue like this where we're getting a lot more kids that we need to service, we can access the additional pre-K revenue. We're talking only about the amount that Beacon gets every single year. So there's also additional money available that we can tap into as well if we need to. So this year, we did the pilot program in the summer, kind of late. We did a lottery. We weren't sure how successful the program was gonna be, and the parents were ecstatic about the progress of their students have made. So that's why we wanted to do it again and do it district-wide and not have to just limit it to 18 kids, because that's all that was able to do it.
Right.
You know, we will really try to work hard with the community-based programs just to make sure families are, you know, getting the pre-K, some sort of pre-K programming. But, I mean, you know, this could be something that a year from now, we're up in front of you talking about expanding this further.
Is there a space issue, like in South, or is it in Accommodations?
I mean, not for this. If we kept expanding, there would start to become a space issue for sure. I mean, that's one of the things that I won't go on a huge tangent here, but when the state folks or when a politician talks about this, there are things like space issues and things like that no one ever wants to. That's the part that no one wants to really talk about. But yeah, that we'll be looking at all aspects of that to see if we can expand.
Very exciting.
Yes.
So, I want to build on what Anthony was saying. I mean, so you have students that I guess don't get picked, right? Students that do get picked, they progress very well in the success of the program. Students that don't get picked, you're saying they may have some community-based options.
They
Okay.
should. I mean, part of our UPK grant goes to those organizations. So, what are some of them?
Currently we use Rose Hill and New Covenant. And because we offered a half-day program, some parents chose those programs because the other side of the half-day program would be childcare. And that might be an option for parents as well, because if they're working a longer day, even though we're offering full-day pre-K, it may not work for them.
That's what I used. I went through Rose Hill because I worked, and it was a lifesaver.
Right.
It was great. That
So, I mean, you know, part of the state's thinking about pre-K is that it doesn't all go to schools because they want to keep the community-based programs going.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, they've been doing this for a long time, and so that is a very clear goal of the state, right?
But just so for funding purposes, I know we're getting the funds. You're saying that's going to cover the whole amount of our pre-K. We're going to have to use additional funds.
We
then.
use we must use general funds because they don't pay 100% anyway. So the way the program's always been, you have to use some general fund money and some.
How much of the general fund money is going to be going towards the UPK to supplement the 40%?
It's less than half.
Less than half. What's our allocation?
Our allocation is $373,000,
And that's
we never
based on-
received that amount because
But that's based on how many kids?
That's based on 108 kids, which we never have. So the grant actually is reduced every year. When we do the budget part, we're able to allocate salaries based on 50% teaching assistants and.
Yeah, but if it's based off 108, you're not going to get the full amount that you're allocated because it's per pupil.
Correct, except when you do a full day program, the ratio changes. So we're anticipating getting more money because we ran a full day classroom with 18 children, and then the half day is prorated at half.
Is there,
Get more funding.
This is not fully funded by the state.
Right. And my question is, how much is the district having to cover? I think that's the easiest way to say.
so is that why we don't fully try to tap out the allocations because we have to pay for part of it?
Well, or in the past, the interest wasn't there.
Well, I think it's a chicken or egg thing though too, like you described, that the interest isn't there because it was always half day.
Right.
So it's it didn't solve a problem
Right.
for most working parents. And then even when it's full day, it doesn't solve that.
Right, and there's
Okay.
limited, and it's always limited space.
Yeah.
And restaffing is obviously the cost of this, and so how much of the staffing are we paying for and how much is the grant paying for?
On the teacher side and the teaching assistant side, we're paying pretty much 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you say a new teacher's $100,000 a teacher, you have 4 teachers, right? So that's 400,000, then you got your aides. Say an aide is, say 4 aides is 150, so that's like 550,000. I'm just shooting off the top of my head as to,
Well, not all teachers
with
are
benefits.
100,000 that are
No,
in the grant.
no, I'm saying a new teacher and stuff.
I understand.
I'm just trying to figure out a ballpark as to if we're
So
getting
part of it is
300.
right, so we cannot show 100, like we cannot put through a 1 FTE into the pre-K grant. They'll just deny it. So there has to be some buy-in from the actual district in the general fund. And that has been that way since the beginning of the program. So we've always had that portion in the general fund budget to pay for a portion of the teachers.
And our budget is gonna increase to cover that, so we're not using unappropriated fund balance to cover that piece?
Right, we're not. It's in the budget.
All of these things are.
I thought 100K was pretty good. It was a loaded rate. I didn't think it was the main salary. Benefits, fringe, and all that
Benefits and
stuff.
salary.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I thought it was a good number.
Okay, I want to switch gears and
Thank you.
switch to the other end of the spectrum to talk about Beacon High School. A few months ago, when Vanessa DeFons came and presented just with the state of the school, she talked about the transition to the 9-period day. And so part of this is to assist with that, to assist with that transition. The business teacher, I'm going to start with that. That is one that we have been trying to do for a long time. I think I initially was up here talking about it 3 years ago, probably. So we feel like we have a good pool of candidates right now, and we're going through our hiring process for that. And I listed the classes. These are semester classes. I listed the classes that the teacher is at least tentatively slated to teach for this upcoming year. This has been something that students have shown a lot of interest in for quite a while. And we're excited to be developing a schedule that supports this and hopefully to have candidates, some good candidates to choose from. Dawn spoke about a need to increase special education at Beacon High School, and then to support the switch to 9-period day / also to support students, to support struggling students. The high school has requested an extra English teacher, which we support that request as well. And then I also just wanted to mention, this isn't a new position. Obviously, this position's been here for quite a while. But Mike Gersh is retiring this year, and you know, the TV studio's kind of in our minds because it's part of the capital project. The upgrades to the TV studio will happen the summer of 2023, so not this summer, but next summer. But these right now are the classes that the high school has the new teacher slated to teach. And when we get the new studio, you know, some of those classes could shift a little bit, but we're excited to be continuing that program and strengthening it with the new, with the capital project part of it as well. So these are just, you know, these are positions that are going to be shared, and Don spoke about some of these. One is a social worker position that we actually did this year, but it just started a few weeks ago, so it will be like a new position in a sense for next year's budget as well. Right now, this person's at the high school, but I've been talking with high school administration and administration of Roundabout, and we want to move this position and have it be both between Roundabout and the high school. Right now, I'm saying focusing on emerging school and student needs. We have students that already, she started 10 days ago, and there were students kind of waiting for her to see right away. One of the things that we want this person to focus on, and this is part of the shift to have it be between both buildings, is to do some focus on drug and alcohol counseling as well. I think, you know, in media, national media, local media, we're seeing an uptick just on a sort of a national basis in student experimentation with drugs and alcohol, and so we want to provide additional support for students requesting it, for families requesting it. The person we hired has some experience in this area, and so that won't be the full part of her job, but we want it to be part of it for sure. This next one I mentioned a little bit in some of our budget successes from the past year. So we want to add a world language teacher in this budget cycle. A lot of this person will be at the middle school, some will be at the high school. The primary focus of this position is to keep the expansion of Italian going. We have 2 sections in the 7th grade. We want to be able to continue with 2 sections in 8th. We're also working on a plan at the high school to keep it going all the way to having a DCC Italian class next year. So the teacher who teaches it, I think, is going through the certification process for that right now. But the plan is that we'll be able to offer Italian all the way to getting DCC credit for it, which is really exciting. So we do have an anticipated and planned retirement in the World Language Department next school year, not this school year, but June 2023. And so as we sort of watch, this new teacher we're inserting into the World Language Program at Roundabout and Beacon High School, we're going to see if we need to replace that teacher who's retiring a year from now. One of the things we're learning, and I guess this is probably just sort of basic admin 101, but when you add a new language to a district that just is offering one, it doesn't just automatically reduce the needs of teaching staff. Like adding Italian doesn't mean you need one less Spanish teacher. That's at least what we've seen so far, but we will be evaluating that all next year, and we do want to look at that retirement in terms of whether we need to replace that person or not. That being said, our world language classes, especially at Roundabout, do trend on the higher side. We're a district that really has small class sizes, from K to 12, and that's something that we take a lot of pride in. And so, this position will help bring that down a little bit. So we're excited to be offering a full second language program with Italian. This next one is something that right now we have a very, very jumbled elementary music schedule where I want to say one of our schools has 3 different three different general music teachers. So adding this 0.5 person would allow the elementary folks to streamline a little bit. We know that some of our elementary schools don't need a full-time music teacher based on especially like a school like Forrestal, which is very small. And so part of what the elementary general music people would do would be to take a class at Roundabout to help the class sizes there, because those are the other class sizes that run really very high at Roundabout. So the scheduling is tricky with this. So that's why we're putting a tentative there, because we really have to do a lot with the principals to make sure we can pull that off if we do it, but we have budgeted for it.
Matt, can I just ask
Yeah,
a question about
sorry.
the world language
Yep.
piece with the Italian? So are the students currently taking, are they getting a sequence in Italian, like Italian 1, Italian 2, Italian 3? Is that where we're at?
That's what we're starting.
They're working on their seal of,
Literacy.
yes, thank you. And you have to have a succession, that's why they're adding the Italian.
So what do we offer now? Italian 1?
I think there is a,
I could go back to my laptop and pull it up.
The only
Because I have
reason I'm asking is
their whole offerings.
if they haven't gone through the full sequence of Italian 1, 2, and 3, and we're looking at a DCC Italian, is that like an advanced college credit class? And wouldn't they need the sequence in the Italian before they start that?
I don't think it's an advanced college class, the Italian 3.
So a kid wouldn't get a sequence in it to get a sequential for their regions, and they would just take their DCC Italian before they do the sequence?
I'm not sure. I don't remember how. Because it wasn't offered before, so.
Right, so that's where is it too early to offer the DCC Italian because they don't have a sequence 1, 2, and 3?
I'm trying to remember, because when she put in the course proposal, there was a whole explanation on it. She hand wrote it, so I don't have it on my.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have access to it.
And I'm all in favor of expanding the Italian. I'm just not sure if we're ready for the DCC if we don't have the 1, 2, and 3 yet.
Next year we do have it planned. I can't tell you off the top of my head what we had this year. Next year we have 1, 2, and 3.
And then we're going to have an additional DCC Italian.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think we had Italian.
We have the teacher at the high school next year scheduled to teach 2 sections of Italian 2, 1 section of Italian 3, and 1 section of DCC.
But isn't this the 3rd year of Italian?
I want to say yes.
I think so.
I don't know if it's the 2nd or 3rd to say that they finished the sequence in Italian to be ready for DCC.
This is the,
I'll do a
This is
little
the
more
3rd
research
year.
on why it
It's
was
the 3rd
developed, but
Okay,
I don't think we'd be developing
I
unless
think
we
it's
didn't
the
have student
3rd
study,
year.
but I'll.
it's definitely the 3rd year because we
Yeah.
started it when we
Yeah.
got the grant.
Yeah.
So this is the 3rd year, not next year.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
it
I
wouldn't
just
make
didn't
sense
know if
to
it
ask
was
for
ready.
that with
Well, that's why I was asking.
You're asking because
No more Red Bull for you.
No, I was asking.
Oh, you
It's
are
not like it was an
drinking
easy
Red
question.
Bull.
I had to go to the nurse and stuff. like-
Oh my God.
I'm cutting you off.
I need more.
Oh. I think we.
We have a Red Bull vending machine in the cafeteria.
Is there like a,
Just
is
kidding.
there like a
just kidding.
Narcan for it?
All right. All right. So we also wanted to talk about 3 one-year positions that we want to move forward with as well. So we've been working pretty hard to get these funded through the federal money. So they're not a part of our regular budget. And so we want to create 3 one-year teacher on special assignment positions. The reasoning for this is we think that we'll probably have hopefully several teachers interested in doing this. So how it works is they take a leave from their current position to do one of these positions here in the district, and then we hire a leave replacement to cover them for a year. So the first one that we'd like to do is someone who's just specifically focused on restorative practices at Beacon High School. So this position would have a number of different aspects. A lot of it would be proactive preventative work with students, 9th through 12th grade. Just trying to kind of see where the needs are, meeting with students informally, working with parents, etc. Also, part of it would be doing restorative circles, restorative work on sort of the back end of conflict happening. Another part of the position would be really trying to get the peer mediation program going. It's been starting this spring. I may have mentioned in a board meeting prior, we have several student leaders really working to get peer mediation going. A few students from the Black Student Union have been really instrumental in getting it moving, and so we'd love to have one of our teachers help move all these things forward. I do envision a smaller part of the position helping out with issues at Roundabout on sort of a needs basis, but primary focus would be Beacon High School. Dawn spoke at length just about the difficult year that students went through really the last year and a half, and we've seen that this year at all of our levels. We think this position would be really crucial to helping move things forward. Again, the plan is that these are all one-year positions. I'll talk a little bit about our process for evaluating at the end. The next one-year position we want to do is someone who coordinates responsive intervention at the elementary and middle levels. So someone who works with the administrative team, works with SAGI's office, works with teachers, works with building principals to really provide coordination and individual support to teachers, students, but also some district coordination of our RTI program, and to get that program really running consistently and smoothly across all the 5 of those schools. And then the last one, Don spoke about this. I'm calling it just for now social emotional coordinator for the elementary level. We're taking kind of a wide lens on this. It may not necessarily be a social worker. I think it could also be a classroom teacher, but we want someone who really helps get the various sort of curriculums and programs, brings some cohesiveness to us, and helps both with the implementation of it, helps with the teacher training side, et cetera. So we want to evaluate all of these. Right now, they're going to be funded through our federal money, but we want to evaluate all these over the course of this next school year to see if there may be one that we want to continue in a more formal and probationary way, or we may want to pull back because we have these programs up and running and feeling good. Yeah, Anthony.
When the teacher's on special assignment, what happens to their teaching duties?
They go on leave from their teaching duties. We hire leave replacements. So if it's like a fifth grade teacher, they take a leave from that fifth grade position. We hire a leave replacement to teach the fifth grade class the whole year while they do the position. We've had a good experience finding leave replacements over the last few years.
Okay, thank you.
And the response to intervention coordinator would help with the restructuring of the 504 stuff also, or is that completely separate?
That is a little bit of a separate conversation, but I think the person could probably support with that as well. Honestly, it's we want to really achieve some consistency between our 4 elementary schools. I think we've made a lot of progress in consistency in a lot of areas across the 4 schools. This we feel like this and the social emotional work at the elementary level are 2 things that we need to really get more consistent with. And we think like a TOSA position would really help us get there, to be honest. That's our main goal with that. And also just providing individual support to families, teachers, students as well. These are all 3 of these positions are very reflective of just things that we want to move forward with, student needs we've seen, things staff have brought to us. I'd like to say these are all original ideas, but a lot of different teachers and administrators have asked us to really think about each of these positions. And we're excited to work it into the CARES funding. But I do foresee next spring we'll hopefully be up, not hopefully, we will be updating you before the spring about how these positions are going, and you'll have a chance to see some of their work. I foresee possibly trying to continue one of these or 2 of these if we really feel it's being successful.
Would it be the same person for continuity, or would you?
Yeah, it could be. So anyway. So just next steps at our next board meeting. Saggy's going to do some more detail about professional development for next year. Just quickly, we're excited to have a couple offerings for our administrators this summer. One is really grounded in kind of like cutting edge learning work. It's called The Future of Learning. Most of our administrators will be able to attend that. And then later in the summer, we're bringing in some administrators really experienced in equity diversity issues in school districts, and they'll be working with our whole administrative team as well. Next steps on the budget level. So at the next board meeting, we'll be providing more information not only about professional development, but also, Anne Marie, what do you see us being able to share from the budget side at the next meeting? Everything?
A lot of budget details, yes.
So we'll know possibly the state?
Well, there's proposals from both the Senate and Assembly now. I don't have money amounts, but I have what things they want included. So I'm hoping the state budget expires March 31st. So it would be wonderful if we had the final numbers to do. But if they don't, I'll have a contingency plan ready.
And so the other part of next steps is just communication and outreach. We foresee doing school meetings either through PTAs or other means, sort of like the when spring break ends to the budget vote. We're sort of targeting that stretch of time. I've been doing a lot of student focus groups at all the buildings and getting a lot of great feedback from our students, which is very powerful. And then also probably a couple online type forums although we have been enjoying doing more things in person. So we'll probably do a mix. We're excited to be getting word out. This is a powerful budget. You know, this is the bulk of our instructional staffing initiatives. You heard some from Dawn. And this, you know, what I just shared kind of captures all of our thinking pre-K to 12, and a lot to be excited about. We're very excited to get some of these positions filled and moving forward.
Matt, is the plan to do summer school very similarly to last summer?
It is. We do have one challenge this summer is that we have we have capital work in every single building, really every single building. The high school is where we'd want to put, you know, our summer programming. That's the building that has the least, which is great. We just really need to kind of sit down from a facilities end just to see if we can do everything we did last summer. We may have to, you
Switch
know,
around.
shuffle things around a little bit. So it may not be quite as full as last summer, but we'd like to get as close as possible. Roundabout is having pretty extensive work. We had a lot of the summer stuff there, and Roundabout's having a lot of work from the capital project this summer. So, Roundabout's going to be completely shut down for a couple of weeks, like not, you know, no electricity, nothing.
Yep.
So, you know, we're going to be experiencing even a greater challenge summer of 2023 with work happening in all the buildings too. But so as much as we can get into the high school, we will do our best.
Can we, so it seems like with the different presentations from the different principals, you know, STEM seems to be a different flavor with each of the schools. Can we make a more concerted effort to focus more on STEM? I mean, I noticed from the list of BHS, you know, you have the DCC and AP classes, and they're biased towards the arts. You know, can we make a more concerted effort with STEM in our curriculum?
Yeah, bias towards the arts?
Well-
Or are you lumping arts, humanities,
Well,
social studies?
as a scientist, I don't know what those other things are. So
Okay.
the non-science
I'm
courses.
I'm
yeah.
just messing with you. Yeah, you know, so probably one of the most consistent things in the student focus groups that I hear from fourth graders all the way through 12th grade is, so one of the questions I ask is, how do you like to learn? And sometimes it's silent for like 2 minutes and they just sort of look at me, but eventually they start talking. And consistently, someone in each group will say, I need more hands-on learning. And then every single student in the group just starts saying the same thing. And so, you know, Saggy and I have been talking about ways really at the elementary level to get, you know, to really get more of it. An elementary student spoke pretty eloquently. Oh, I can't remember which school, Glenham or South Avenue, about, you know, she really believes that, you know, science is best learned through, you know, interactive things and not reading so much. And you know, it makes a lot of sense. So I think we want to, you know, do more there, but with science instruction at the elementary level. And we would have to do it in a consistent manner. Like it'd have to be done across all 4 schools consistently. So that, you know, I'm not just focusing on elementary. It comes up at middle and high. Like they love labs. I should tell the science teachers more. I hear about labs almost more than anything else, and they want more of them. And so that's also something that, you know, we need to be looking into too. You know, that's kind of part of our goal with like this, you know, this revision or redo of the TV studio. Like that's an incredibly hands-on experience as well, in kind of different ways, both a digital sort of way and non-digital. And so like we want to really dig in and try to make the best program there possible too. So yes, I'm hearing from the students, we want to make it more consistent as well.
So, in addition to DCC, I mean, we also have Clarkson University and Cornell Cooperative Extension in our backyard. Can we do more to make stronger connections to their programs to our curriculum?
Yeah, yes.
Because it also, again, it seems like depending on the principal, depends on the flavor that each of the schools have.
Right. Now, you know, I was one of those principals years ago, and, you know, you want to have uniformity amongst schools, but you also don't want to stifle innovation too. So, like, if a principal's like, hey, I want to do this thing, and, we don't always want to say, wait until everyone else is ready. Like, we also want to say, go for it, let's see
Yeah.
how it worked, and see if we can replicate it. So, we always could do better with that. But there's always going to be like a little bit of that, like that you could call it inconsistency, or you could say people pushing things a little bit and trying new things.
Well, if it's the same principles all the time, then that does become inequity. So it's really about if there is somebody who's pushing like a boundary and willing to innovate, let's say in the library media space,
Right.
that's great. But does that eventually, once it becomes a systemic program that exists in a school, does that translate to other schools, or is
Right.
it just constantly whoever has the capacity and talent and that gets fostered?
Right.
That they keep pushing ahead and that other schools don't. Like I think that's what he's speaking
Right.
to. And that, I know it gets all boiled down to like equity across the schools. I think that's really the
Right.
core of the issue.
Right.
We used to have a summer science program with Beacon Institute for Rivers and Estuaries in Clarkson. Is that just gone now? Or
No,
is that,
I don't think it's
I
gone.
mean, are they offering it, like, still?
A lot of things over the last 2 years have been in various sort of states of pause. So, well, I know we were in communication with Clarkson, so I'm not sure where it is exactly, but it's not gone.
Okay. So the other side of hands-on, the career and technical education programs, are we doing something more with that? I know, Mr. Gersh was a CTE teacher. I think he was the only CTE teacher we had. Are we gonna do more towards CTE?
Well, I know you get tired of hearing me answer this way, but, we have completely opened the process, and we do not limit the number of students who want to do CTE in BOCES. And we have some of the largest numbers make use of the program in Dutchess County. And it's a successful program. And as you know, Dutchess BOCES is going through this huge capital project where they're going to have completely transformed spaces for CTE. So we really try to move kids that way. And we have a large number. I forget the number. Anyone know? Off the top, how many students we have go? It's probably, I think it's like 50, 60, 70, somewhere in there.
Between 50 and 60, depending on the year. I mean, obviously, less went the last 2 years, but we budget for at least 60 to 65 a year to go.
Okay. And no complaints from the student doing that 45-minute ride on the school bus to go up there, right?
I mean, it's the bus ride's an issue for probably half of Dutchess County, right? And what I have found is the programs that BOCES offers really meets the need of that, that group of students. Like, and it's a high quality program. And we've had not last year, but the 2 previous years, we had the valedictorian from CTE was from Beacon High School. It's,
Okay.
I think it's seen in a positive light. But it is not next door, that's for sure.
After school clubs, activities, a lot of them are formed due to the interest of the student, and they have an educational value. Is there any thought on perhaps staggering the times that the clubs can meet so that students can participate in more than one club? Is there any thoughts about even where an after-school activity can actually sustain maybe some credit towards a diploma? Any thoughts like that?
I know at the elementary level, there's some staggering of the clubs. I kind of know that both from my role and as a parent too. Like the teachers offer them at different times. High school is a little trickier just because when does the activity bus run? Is it
Late bus is at 3:30, 3:45 the latest,
right?
so they have to have it immediately after school.
Right. But also, like, I know teachers probably avoid Mondays for clubs just because that's when we have a lot of our meetings. So, and they don't do Friday clubs most likely. So, you know what I mean? There's like, it's only Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday that they're probably targeting for clubs. You know, we have expanded, we've expanded the clubs we offer every year. I don't think it's fully launched yet, but we have esports starting for the first time.
Started.
There's a picture on Instagram today.
Did they go to that, did they compete already?
They had tryouts.
Tryouts.
So they're gonna start competing.
Do you know how many students tried out?
I don't, but there was a picture
It
on
looked
social
full.
media that there was a lot of kids in.
Yeah.
Is it on the wrong bout?
My son's already practicing. Just kidding. So we added esports. We wrote a 21st Century Learning Grant. We're supposed to find out next month. And the goal of that was to provide after-school programming for lower-income families. So at the elementary level, it would be to scholarship students into the Beacon Rec program. The middle school level would be to create like a arts program for students, and at the high school it'd be kind of like arts tutoring and doing some internships. We also wrote a grant with DCC that we'll find out about hopefully next month as well, Upward Bound, which would focus on high school. First generation college students and getting them ready over a course of several years. So hopefully we'll have some good news to share. At least we tried. We got ourselves out there in the grant world this year.
Yep.
So
I also see that you had computer science. You've got, we know that a lot of schools have 3D printers. Any thoughts on taking that to the next level? I've said before, robotics doesn't have to be robotics per se, but
right.
Any thoughts about taking that to the next level?
Yeah, I'd love to. You mean like on a kind of a club basis, like a
Well,
robotics
a
club
more
thing?
formal. I don't know if the 3D printing is done where, they're showing the students what it is and then how it's built, and then maybe even constructing parts together to build something bigger. So there's design aspects of that. Computer science, you definitely could do the programming through Arduino cards or Raspberry Pi cards, and make everything come together.
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, one of our challenges sometimes with some of our extracurriculars is finding people to do it. But I'd love to add that. I've seen some other schools that have like the competitive robotics teams.
Yep.
I would love to add that.
Yeah, we used to send people to the Lego one.
Right, I was thinking like at the secondary level.
Yep,
So
Are we still sending to people the Lego one?
we didn't do it. One of the teachers who did it isn't here this year, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So no, not this year.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is really exciting, and it
Yeah.
feels like it
Very good.
is hitting a lot of important areas that our students really need support in, so very exciting to hear it. Can I have a motion to adjourn to executive session to review the employment history of a particular individual and to discuss matters made exempt by federal or state law, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, and the board will return in 45 minutes.
So moved. Second.
Laura, Anthony, comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm in favor, passes 8-0.
Dinner.
Oh my God, I we do have a couple of changes on the agenda, Resolution 12.01 and Resolution 12.02. The resolution language has been added. Non-instructional personnel list, item 3.05C1 has been corrected, and item 3.05D6 has been added. Are there any parent groups or student in school presentations? I don't see anyone here. Sorry. Anyone online? Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna ask Matt for a superintendent's report.
So I had a couple slides. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to quickly say that the equity report card, we have a draft version. I'm just working through a couple of the parts of it just to make sure it's all kind of ready for public, but we're hoping that we can launch it in the next week, but it's mostly completed. We're excited about that. And then the other thing is we are going to be kicking off strategic planning 2.0, so it's a continuation of the work from 3 years ago. So the big data gathering pieces are going to be a stakeholder survey that families can fill out, staff can fill out, and students can fill out. And so the survey will probably be going out in a week's time. And the folks helping facilitate this work are also going to be doing student focus groups as well. And so they'll be collecting data from students in an in-person way. And we have a steering committee mostly put together, so it's a lot of people from the last time. And we have our first meeting next week, and then they'll have a meeting kind of towards the end of April. And we'll be updating the community as we go. And there'll be another sort of round of work kind of late summer and early fall to kind of put it all together. So we're excited about that. Equity report card coming out. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Board comments and committee reports. Anthony?
The curriculum committee has not met since our last board meeting. The next meeting is March. Next week, the 26th.
No, that's Saturday.
No, 24th then.
That's Thursday.
24th.
Yeah, 24th.
This week.
No, it's not.
Yes, it
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
31st.
31st. 31st it is.
One of the three.
Kristen?
I don't know when our next facilities committee meeting
The
is.
31st.
31st?
Okay, yeah. That's when it is. And that's it, no board comment.
Thank you. Craig?
Yes, Audit and Finance, next meeting is on the 31st, tag teaming with Facilities and Operations. Ours is at 6, the other one's at 7. Nothing additional to report at the moment. I was very happy to attend the Music in Our Schools event with the band concert. And I can tell you that very satisfied to see the progress that is audible in performance level, because you only go to with one of these once a year and you notice the change. So when we started that kind of fourth grade starting point, we made a very good decision, and now we get to see the fruits of that decision. And we will continue to do so because this builds upon itself. And that's how you build a school music program. You start at the bottom in the elementary level, and you keep on plugging away. So I also think we have to thank Samantha Ryan, who filled in for James Walton, who was not able to attend as the conductor, although he had very well prepared that band. So she did some pinch hitting duty and did very well. I'm looking forward to seeing this in future years. The Foundation for Beacon Schools, where I and Alyssa are advisors to that outfit, is very active. In fact, just bursting all over the place with stuff going on. I think maybe you want to talk about that, some of the things that you're working on. I'll stick to well, we have some fundraisers coming up and a couple of programs, including a film fest. But I'll talk about the more history-related item that we're working on. There's an MOU between the Historical Society and the Foundation for Beacon Schools, so there's current conversations going on there. There's also a filmmaking idea that is currently percolating, and I understand there's a couple of teachers who are quite interested in working on this. So things are cooking. We're looking to form a community working group to try to pull all these strands together and create various packages of things that will be useful to teachers for years to come. So that's pretty exciting. And beyond that, I do recall Howie Brink. I'm glad we said some memorial for him today. He worked for a great long time in this district and became the head custodian. A lot of people remember him pretty well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anthony?
Good evening. The subcommittees on the diversity committees have not met yet since last meeting. Um, and you know, I am I do thank the district for preparing all those district budget presentations. I mean, there's a lot of good information, and I also appreciate the interaction of having all our questions become part of the process. I also remember Mr. Brink. You know, it's it's one of the families in Beacon that you know that have, I guess, quite a few of them have moved out. I volunteered with his sister at the ambulance corps, so I also knew him as a security guard at Vassar as well when he worked here as well. So he had two jobs at the same time. So sad to see him go as well. And the report.
Thank you, Anthony. John?
I just want to say congratulations to a few of the students that I don't know if it's called like an actual award ceremony, but they got a couple awards for their sport, like the things they do in sports, and I just want to say congratulations to them.
Thank you. Alyssa?
The next meeting of the Policy Committee will be April 18th, 7 p.m. And as Craig said, the Foundation for Beacon Schools is really busy. We've got lots of great events coming up, and one of those is our inaugural benefit, which will be June 11th at the University Settlement Camp. The working title of that party right now is called June Rising. It's, I think that's the name of it. That's what it'll be called. There will be live music. There will be a silent auction, some prizes, in a beautiful setting. So more details to come. I hope that lots of folks will buy tickets and come out for an evening in June. Thanks.
Thank you. Laura?
Yes, so the Dutchess County School Boards Association, we've been having a discussion about putting together a subcommittee to start getting more sort of organized in bringing in specific people to speak based on educating members around advocacy issues. So even though NYSBA does come to speak at the association meetings every year, and they talk specifically about advocacy, and they offer a good overview of sort of the biggest issues that they're advocating for and ways to be a good advocate. We think it might be good to have people who are experts in certain subject areas to, in the region to sort of come and talk to us about specific issues. For instance, mental health or, the tax cap. So we're working on that for the following year, and I'm looking forward to those meetings being really useful in that sense. We had the Public Relations Advocacy and Legislative Committee meeting earlier today. We talked about things that we want to advocate for. One thing is that the federal program for universal free school meals is ending this year. And so we want to do advocacy around that. We're going to explore the best way for us to advocate, because that really is something that is going to have to happen at the federal level. But once we come up with a good plan and some information, we would like to share that out, in a public statement, but also with through the PTOs and PTAs, and allow parents the opportunity to advocate as well. We just tried that with sharing our mental health advocacy. We sent it to the PTOs and PTAs. We got good feedback, and about half of them responded and said, yes, we'll definitely share this information. And so what we did is it's the information about what we're advocating for, but then there's also a link to the advocacy section of the website. And on the website, there are tools for finding your legislator, for sending templated emails. And there are lots of people, like lots of organizations out there and websites out there that do it really well, even just in New York State. And so we're linking to those. It's not like we're reinventing the wheel or anything, but it just gives parents sort of an easy way to do that, and provides them with information that we're thinking about. So I think the next one we're going to try that with is advocating for the universal school lunches. I also just wanted to highlight for everybody that NYSBA's 2022 resolution survey is due tomorrow. And I was looking it over and I realized there's a lot of sort of big information on there. Like it talks about the foundation aid formula and it talks about charter schools and it talks about the tax cap. And so we were talking about the idea of bringing in somebody from NYSBA to our next retreat to do a sort of like ask me anything about big advocacy issues that are, I mean, not just to be able to advocate, but just also to help with sort of gaps in understanding. Because I always feel like there are things like, do I really completely understand how the tax cap works? Do I really understand this issue or that issue? And I think it would be interesting to at least try to see what doing it in that sort of an ask me anything format with somebody would be like. This was an idea that we just had, so we still have to sort of work out who the best person would be to talk about such a broad range of issues. But that is the general idea. And we are skipping our PRAL meeting for April, and we'll meet again in May. That's it.
Thank you. And I have no comments. We have no new business, so moving on to item 11, Resolution 032122A for appeal of superintendent's hearing. Can I have a motion? I'll read the resolution and ask for a motion. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Beacon City School District hereby affirms the superintendent's decision and suspension of student number 032122 issued pursuant to an education law, section 3214, superintendent's hearing, and further authorizes the board president to inform the parents of student number 032122 of its decision. Can I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Kristen, is there a second?
Second.
Craig, and are there any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm in favor, passes 8-0. Next item are our school bus resolutions, 12.01 and 12.02. They're both roll call votes. So first, can I have a motion to adopt resolution 032122B, authorizing the purchase of school buses?
So moved.
Second.
Are there comments or questions? Okay, Kelly, would you do the roll call?
Ms. Betterman?
Yes.
Ms. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Singh?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Stadler?
Yes.
Ms. Hewer?
Yes.
8-0.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve resolution 032221C, authorizing the purchase of school buses for the school district of the city of Beacon and authorizing the issuance of bonds?
So moved.
Second.
Laura, Kristen, are there any comments or questions? Kelly, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Betterman?
Yes.
Ms. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Singh?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Ms. Stadler?
Yes.
Ms. Hewer?
Yes.
8-0.
Thank you. Okay, and the consent agenda. The use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and that item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. Are there any items that any board members would like to have removed from the consent agenda?
3.05B2, 3.05D2.
13.03.
B2 and D2, and then 1305, what would you say, Anthony?
1303.
1303. Okay, can I have a motion to approve items 13.01 through 13.20, less 1305, B2, D2, and 13.03?
So moved.
Second.
Alyssa, second by Anthony. Comments or questions?
Item 1320, thank you very much. I also like the Hurricane STEM challenge on that list as well, so.
Yeah, this is the first grant program done by the Foundation for Beacon Schools. It's really exciting
Oh,
that
nice.
teachers, even though I'm sure they are so tired, still manage to find the energy to apply for it, and we'll be excited to see the results of it.
If I may, I think it's about $4,000 of grants to 5 different programs. And we observed at the recent board meeting for the foundation that it covers quite a wide range of topics and areas as well as schools. So it was a good run of applications for the first shot out. Very happy, yeah.
Really, really exciting, yeah. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm in favor, passes 8-0. Can I have a motion to approve 13.03?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Anthony.
It's 13.05 B2 and 13 point,
I'm just going in
3.0,
order.
oh, sorry,
and
sorry, okay,
Anthony
sorry.
answered that. So 13.03, are there any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
I'm in favor, passes 7-1. Can I have a motion to approve 13.05 B2?
3.05.
Wait,
Oh,
what?
no, oh, these are still him.
No, no,
Oh.
this is him. 13.05 B2, is that what you said?
It's 3.05 B2 and 3.05,
Oh, you're looking on, wait, what?
1305.
wait,
The consent agenda is number 13, so,
okay. It's the non-instructional?
yeah.
Yeah,
13,
okay.
is this the
I just, we
part-time
don't-
senior?
yes, we just
conflict?
don't
Yeah,
have,
so 13.05 B2.
sorry.
Can I have a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Kristen, is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions?
I just wanted to ask about, we don't have a date for his, how long he's going to be.
So our internal claims auditor had surgery last week, and I don't know how long he'll be out. He told me before he left that he is dying to come back.
Okay.
So we asked Mr. Fige to take a leave of absence from his account clerk since he knows the position and have his rights shut off to the computer so that
Okay.
he can act in that way.
Got it.
And then he'll transition back as soon as our internal claims auditor is better to do the work.
Got it.
So I'm hoping a couple weeks.
So is he on a leave of absence or is he on FMLA?
He gets paid on stipend, so we haven't had him on a leave of absence, but he only gets paid when he's in.
Okay.
So,
And is he, okay, yeah, that's fine then.
And will we then have to amend it to have the effective date closed in the end?
I left it open-ended just because I really have no idea, how long it will be. I can check with legal to see if we need to do that.
Okay.
So the way it's written here, it looks like he's only on leave for 1 day, though.
Well, there's not an end date, so it's effective starting on the 15th.
Right, it's the beginning.
Effective 1 day.
No, it
It
that's
doesn't have
just
an
the
end date. It
beginning.
doesn't go to an
Effecting
end date,
from
'cause
that
he's
day,
getting
effective
appointed to
from
this
that
other,
day.
that's what I was confused about too. But, I'll vote on that one, just because I wanted to understand what was going on.
Okay, so any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm in favor, passes 8-0. Can I have a
And
motion?
then, it's third, sorry.
Oh, motion to approve 13.05 D2.
So moved.
Kristen.
Second.
Flora, with the
I
second.
haven't done one of these in a while, as you can tell.
Comments or questions?
We just don't have a, and I looked back at Mr. Haight too, because then I was like, oh, maybe there's a rate for what we're paying Mr. Haight. So we don't have a rate for what we pay for this position?
That's correct. So Mr. Haight was getting the stipend amount that he had been receiving,
Which
more than
is?
annualized, it's like $8,000 for the year.
Okay.
So the easiest way was to pay Mr. Fige what he gets paid as an hourly senior account clerk.
Okay.
So just the hours he works. He's only in the district for about an hour and a half every week, and then
Okay.
an hour every other week. So
Okay.
it's not that much time.
So, and what does he get paid? Just because then,
It's contractual, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's part of the clerical unit, and I can get that for you. I don't know off the top of my head how
Yeah, just because it, like, if you go back and look, that everybody else has like some sort of rate, and then there's nothing here, and
We
then,
just kind of changed this, the reason I didn't include the salary was because we weren't changing his salary, we were just changing his job responsibilities for the short term.
okay,
Got it.
sure. And then in the just thing that, other thing that was confusing, just because of audit, I've been trying to pay more attention to this, to the claims auditor, so when we appointed Mr. Haight, we said his standard workday was 7.5 hours, and that's what we're reporting to the New York State Retirement Association. So is Mr. Fige going to be able to do that work in the amount of time that he's
So the
working?
7.5 hours was a standard workday, so that they can kind of calculate the time that he would get a pension.
Okay,
But we annualized his stipend based on the actual hours he works, so he can work, Mr. Figa can work the hours that he did. And he has another position, but he's doing this more on a part-time basis.
okay.
But Mr. Haight works, depending on how many checks and stuff, as you know, we would.
Sure,
have a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
Stuff, but,
So he gets about $8,000 a year, Mr. Haight.
yes.
And then Mr. Fige is just stepping into this. He's basically working the same amount of hours, but we don't have an hourly rate that's consistent with the clerical contract?
We were going to pay him his hourly rate as a senior account clerk, which I can figure out, I just don't have it. right
Sure, yeah, it's just helpful to have it on
now.
the agenda. Okay.
So will you be adding it to the, should we amend the,
I can amend it at the next agenda.
okay, that'd be great.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm in favor, passes 8-0. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Anthony, Flora, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 8-0. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.